And yeah, it would make
me. Danny, wait a minute. There was no wise guys hanging out down there. Nothing like that going on.
Yeah, they were throwing the ball at me.
Yeah.
Let's get this little mother juicer. Like, it was like fun for them to throw the ball and try to get me and you jump to the side.
See, that's what I love about True House Stories. Who the hell would have ever heard this? We never would have gotten this from any article, nothing.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever told this ever.
So wait, let's get it clear, Danny. You worked as a pin spotter at the basement of Lady Montgomery. For how long?
I can't remember. It probably wasn't too long. I would guess less than a year. But it was one of my after-school kind of jobs, my first jobs.
Okay. Is that the only job that you had outside this music thing?
No, I tried a couple of other things. By the way, I didn't go to Our Lady of Mount Carmel. Up the block from there was Annunciation. And me and my brothers went to Catholic school there at Annunciation, and which that building is over 100 years old. Yeah, there's Annunciation, Eli Whitney, Our Lady of Mount Carmel, all within 5 blocks. And we all lived like within 4 blocks from that. And I worked in a deli around the corner from my house, after school, sweeping. It was just like a breakfast lunch place. So after I got to school, cleaned the coffee pot, the grill, nothing significant. Only when I guess I was 16, got the job it was called the Miami Lounge. It's on Union Avenue, right near McCarran Park. And it's still there. It changes over once in a while to different types of restaurants, but the layout is exactly the same. I got to do a video tour of...
You got to do that. Yeah, we would love to. But, so now give us the layout of what you're first at the Miami Lounge. I'm guessing you went from the other spot. This is another official job that's going to come into play now.
Right.
What year is this about?
76.
So 10%'s fully all over the radio. Things are starting to now cook a little bit. Disco is starting to become the word disco.
Right. So before it, I think on the industry scene, the word disco was happening because of places like the Gallery and so on, but it didn't explode until about 77 globally. And with the opening of Studio 54 in 77 and the Paradise Garage opened in 77,
yeah,
for the record.
And Ralphie D gave a job at Odyssey 2001 and being part of the film and all, as an extra.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was part of an extra. They had him do an extra part.
Man, I haven't seen it forever.
And there goes Ralphie D becomes the Saturday night DJ, for the next 3 years. But anyway, you're doing your thing over in Williamsburg area.
So there was bands like El Coco, the Coco Motion, Mondo Disco, and
let's get it together. Yeah. Let's get it together.
Everybody used to do it was called the walk back then. What is it called now? The electric slide or something? Yeah,
like the bus stop. There was a couple of things. Yeah, remember the bus stop? They won't do the turn, the walk. Yeah.
So that's my memory of the Miami Lounge, playing El Coco, and the people doing the walk. I got stories, Lenny. You might need a...
That's all right. I love it. This is what people want to know. Like I said, this is wonderful. We're happy to hear them because, like I said, nobody gets to hear this stuff unless you tell the story.
So pre-disco, as I'm mentioning, like Ecstasy, Passion, and Pain and early Tramp stuff, I think one of the songs back then that I could really say filled me up with disco before disco, I mean, till this day, I could listen to that song and get emotional, is Waiting for the Rain by the fantastic Johnny C. Yeah, I got goosebumps. I said it like a week. Well, I got
goosebumps. Then I could hear the beginning part.
Wow. And that 45 provided the instrumental on the back, which was unusual. And then there was I noticed that I started liking the not obvious songs like the Patty Joe records and so many records changed my life, but that one I could think of specifically, having the 45, two of them, one to start with the instrumental, then mix into the vocal, and it be MFSB in the background, Falea Soul Records. And First Choice, The Player, Guilty, all those records were pre-disco, but they paved the way. Philadelphia really, really, in my heart, I think really is where the roots of disco lie.
100%.
Yeah.
No question. It's been verified so many times. And of course, the white trashy records killed it, but that's another story.
Yeah.
But
and I do think that, what I don't want to discredit Chicago, because what they did was amazing. Tracks and DJ International and Ralph Rosario and all those DJs, Marshall Jefferson, Mr. Fingers. But I still feel like house music also originated in Philly, if you will. The term came from the Warehouse, Frankie, Ron Hardy, jacking, piano things. But I think a lot of that was coming off of the Dr. Loves and the Love Sensations and the, Philly. Let no man put us under.
100%. In fact, I can hear Frankie today. He would say, disco's revenge is house music.
Yeah.
Now. But here's the thing now, Dan. You're about 16, 17. Are you seeing you're playing out in Brooklyn? Are you seeing this as a career at that time? I mean, we're talking at this age now, but at that time, can you see the projection of that as this is going to be a career path for you in that early stages?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because this is around the time where I was really becoming obsessed with it. Because now I'm working in a club, besides just being hungry for it and just looking at pictures and probably crying sometimes because my brothers were getting dressed to go out. And they're, I'm 14, 15, and I can't go out, and I'm getting like jealous because they want to go out, drink, drunk, fight, pick up girls. Like, they ain't going for the music. They ain't going for the lights. I want to hear that. I want to see that. And now I was doing it. But this also got a little tough, because now let's say I'm 17. I'm in my second year of high school, and now I'm displaying no interest in school, and I wanted 100% be a DJ.
Ooh.
My parents are like, "What are you? Get ready for this."
Here we go, everyone. Everybody's got the speech. I'm waiting to hear this one.
All right, so my mother's like, "What do you mean you want to be a DJ? What do you mean, like Cousin Brucey, Wolfman Jack? Who knows these people? I don't know."
Murray the K. Let me say it slow for everybody. Murray the K. You want to be like them?
W.
What do you mean? What do you mean by DJ, Danny?
Yeah.
Like that.
I want to replace a band. I just want to stand in a booth from 9 to 5 a.m., shut everything off, and go back the next day and do it again. But I was too young. I wasn't really even allowed to go to nightclubs yet. You mentioned Paul Casella in Monastery, and I want to bring that back because those are the clubs my brothers and a lot of my cousins and relatives. My mother was one of 9 children, so I got a lot of cousins, probably neighbors of yours. They're all over Long Island. And so somehow my brothers talked to like the bouncers at Monastery, which became Butterfields. And they sneaked me into this club where girls had to be 23, guys had to be 25 with jackets to get into this place when it became Butterfields. But they snuck me in just to see the DJ, see the lights, hear the sound, and get me out. Well, Paul wasn't there that night. It was Jenny Costa. Can you believe it? A female DJ that long ago. And I haven't seen or heard from her in ages, but I know she was doing a radio show. So she welcomed me. She's like, who is this? She gives me a hug. Cut up here, My brother's like, you just let him see the place. Like Paul, when he first met me, like, who's this kid? Jenny was super cool. So I saw the club. I saw people dancing. And then I could say then it just felt like this is where I belong.
It was a natural feeling, right, Danny? Come on. It was natural. Nobody understands that. Nobody understands when we say that.
Yeah. It almost makes no sense. Why do you want to see these strobes and disco balls and dots?
And wait till he tells you later about his walking into the garage the first time. Like I'm talking about. He'll tell you, I know it's going to come because that's a life change. That's like meeting God when you come to the garage. He's going to tell you that later.
When you're reborn.
You thought you were a DJ. Like I tell this all the time. You think you're a DJ till you go see the Paradise Garage. You hear the sound system and Larry Levan. You go, you just stop. I remember being sick that night. Just sick, but in a good way, going, I got to go home and throw everything I got out and start all over again. But anyway, this is Danny's story. It's not Lenny's story.
Yeah.
So you get to go in Butterfields. You meet Jenny Costa, and Jenny became a very well-known name. She played in Queens in the Brooklyn circuit. Clubs. She didn't travel around the world, but she was a disco DJ that Disco 92 fell in love with. They would have her do some mix shows, and eventually she wanted to do Hot 103. And played all those Saturday Night Fever shows that they have going on. That's what he's talking about. Wow, Dan, I didn't know you met Jenny so young.
Yeah.
Because Jenny's got to be about 66, 67. She's only a few years older.
Right.
She's not that. She was young, too, when you met her.
For novelty purposes, on the same night, my brothers got me in Butterfields and Eliphas. Eliphas was, I got goosebumps again. Look at that.
Is that Tony Gio playing at Eliphas?
That night it was Jimmy U. Y-U. And I remember hearing I Don't Want to Lose Your Love by the Emotions.
Holy smokes.
I was like, where am I? I didn't want to leave. I couldn't stay because my brothers had to get me home. I was young. And that was so many pre-disco moments. And then I started going there regularly. People may not know if you know of the famous serial killer, the son of Sam. He shot people in a car right outside of Eliphas. And now it's Steve Aoki's father's restaurant. It became what is that restaurant called again?
He is referring to the Benihana.
Benihana, yeah.
How I learned about what you just said. George Benson told me that. I didn't know about Steve Aoki and his father. And the reason
George Benson know that.
George told me, I'll tell you why real quick. George was the next door neighbor to Steve and his sister. And his father came to George and wanted him to invest money in the Benihana when they were starting in the 70s. That's how he told me that. I was like, what? I didn't know that.
Oh,
it's crazy.
You just go on and on because these are the things that weave together, that we're talking like the way we would talk in record shops and record pools, and you meet the other DJs and you hear stories like this. But it's so missing now that it's depressing.
This is why I created True House Stories to have people like yourself come on and give the education, because there's this place. This is not written anywhere. I know it's not. This doesn't exist. Sorry. Keep going, Danny, and it's incredible. And stop being shy. You got more to tell. Come on.
All right.
Eliphas. Wait a minute. Did you realize in Eliphas that was a Richard Long sound system?
No.
That was an RLA.
Really?
And he had three-way crossover, Jimmy U in that booth.
Yeah.
As I saw the pictures, I wasn't old enough to go yet, but I did see. Yeah. And I spoke to Richard, and then that was on his pamphlet back in the day. He used to have Regine's, Paradise Garage, all of them, and Eliphas was listed as one of the systems that they did in Queens.
Wow. I never knew that. I started getting addicted to going to clubs. Once I was able to, you asked me about what did I envision? I guess all I could envision was seeing myself doing what Jenny, Paul, Jimmy U, and these other DJs were doing, or the ones I would read about, like Tom Savarese. And I want to mention a place that really, really changed my life before the garage, more than any other club, I think, because I was in that DJ puberty stage. And where I really learned to pick up on mixing and genres was a club that nobody ever talks about, but it was massive. It was on 42nd Street in Times Square, called Starship Discovery One. You're smiling. You heard of it? Nobody talks about this place.
I have a couple of times. Johnny Bonifiglio played there, and some other people. Yes, I wasn't old enough, but thanks to Jackie McCoy, he gave me pictures.
I love Jackie.
Jackie's got all the paraphernalia, and he gave me the pamphlet.
Yeah.
Tell us about Starship, because Bacho mentioned to me about Starship too, Bacho Mangal.
Well, Starship was a mega club. It had the first floor, Kochek, Cabaret, and then upstairs was the main room, dance floor. And it had a big sound system, larger dance floor. DJ booth was on the floor, but they had these, what's that plastic called? They're all over today. Plexiglass. And there was like 4 big bubbles, 2 facing out, 2 facing the sides. So you could actually just walk up and look right in and watch the DJs and the light man. Another magnet. I was glued. These guys probably been like, get this kid out of here. But the DJs there, if I'm saying his name correctly, was Joey Palminteri. That ring a bell?
Yes, I was wrong. That's correct. Joey Palminteri, not Joey Bonifiglio. Joey played a Contact of Bats.
Yeah, I don't think I know that name.
I'm getting all crazy now. I'm forgetting who's where. Right. Joey Palminteri, right.
Joey Palminteri, Ernie Dundee, and Tom Savarese. These were the names that I remember circulating there. And now they're playing records I knew, because now I started buying records. But now we're talking about the disco era, when Casablanca started knocking them out left and right, and Constellation Orchestra and Prelude, come on, dance, dance. And then, so they were playing that high energy disco, macho, I'm a man, goes on like forever. And it's funky and grungy and has the breaks and the drums, the percussion. But then there would come a moment where they would drop it down to Trans Europe Express, And I was like, oh, what? What just happened? Peter Brown, Do You Want to Get Funky? Dance With Me. And the place would erupt. They would play, what's that Funkadelic song, Flashlight. But then they would bring it back up. They would play songs like Sandy Mercer, Mamma Mia. The slow side was Play With Me, but the B side is You Are My Love. Somebody recently sampled that and looped it, and I'm like,
you're right. That's what I do when I see those two. I go,
I know.
You go on Luigi production, H&L Records. I remember it clear, the purple label. I could see it.
Ain't that something?
As you said it, I could see it. I'm going, purple label, H&L. Yeah. I know, this is what we like. Okay, mental note.
So there was, what I was getting from Starship was these DJs that were technically really skilled, like how they would, beat match, and you hear it go off sometimes, but you feel them find it, and you feel it, you like it, you get it, and how they can drop it down and then slowly bring the energy back up. I remember hearing songs like Full-Time Thing by Whirlwind on Roulette. these songs changed my life. And it's amazing how some of those songs from back in that era, I don't care if I ever hear again because they might be corny, but if I hear them, I know them backwards. Like I know the lyrics, I know the label, I know the year, and that's what's missing. Again, talking about the records and the labels and the information, the credit history, who played guitar, who played the sax, who was the engineer, who remixed it. So yeah, Starship Discovery One on 42nd Street was probably, I don't know, maybe 1976, 79 period. But then I went to the Loft and saw what they were doing. And when I walked into the Loft, David Mancuso was playing Mike Theodore Orchestra, Here Comes the Bull, which I sampled castanets from that for elements. And yeah, again, like you see balloons, I felt you're in somebody's house. It's not like Starship or Elephas or Butterfields, the other clubs I've been to. The Inferno with Renee Hewitt. I went there a lot, started learning how to dance, started doing the hustle. Lenny, I was on a TV show.
Breaking news, everyone. Breaking news. What were you on? 11 Alive? We were 5 Alive. Which show were you on? Come on.
You remember this? It was the sister version of Soul Train called Soul Alive.
Yes, I know the show. They had the restaurant there. Oh, my God. You were on that show?
Oh, my God. If I could see that now, I Googled.
Would you have a Kiana shirt on?
A couple come up. A couple come up on YouTube, but not the one I was on. I was dancing the hustle to That's the Meaning. Beautiful Bang, was it? And then they make us gather and count down. When they get to 0, we're all going to clap because Grace Jones is about to perform, but she's not there. They're going to cut into a video, but we have to act like we're the audience. And I had big hair back then. Oh my God, I was, trying to do the Travolta. The spongy heels, probably coloring in my mustache.
Make you look older. Everybody wants to be older back then. Everybody wants to be older than their age. I know.
I'm looking to, what do we got to do with this?
Now we're trying to figure out how we're going to get young again. Now.
Oh. I have a history.
I got a question for you.
Yep.
You're looking through watching Joey Palmentary and them playing Tom Savarese. How important was it for you coming from Brooklyn to make a mark to getting into Manhattan, to possibly get a job in the city? This is, that's important. How big was that for you?
Well, I've talked about this many times because when I'm asked this question, or similar way of putting it, there was nothing bigger to shoot for than crossing the bridge from Brooklyn to Manhattan. That's all there was you could maybe play at Elephas or Butterfield's clubs in Long Island and Queens, but the big ones were in Manhattan. So once I turned 18 and I was able to, go out legally, I started seeing all these clubs. And again, it's like 7 nights a week. I started going everywhere. Better Days, Zanzibar, the Limelight, which was actually a gay bar on 7th Avenue before it was the church. I think there's no connection. And right up the block from Limelight was a club called Gables, as in Clark Gables. And I was just bouncing around everywhere. So that was the big dream, was to get a job in Manhattan, because now you'd be more legitimate, you'd be making more money, and actually being able to afford, coming into my 20-year-old self and like, how do I pay for this? How do I pay for records? How do I pay for anything? Because I was still living with my family. So any penny I made from setting up bowling pins or sweeping floors went right towards records.
Yeah. You had to make it.
Yeah. So after the Miami Lounge, that was like 76, 77, 78, probably. I don't know if it went into 79. I can't really remember exactly, but my guess is 76 or 79. Then in 1980, I got a job working like 5 days a week in a roller disco in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. And that's when everything changed for me, because I didn't have to wait for Fridays and Saturdays to play at the Miami Lounge. And there was such a neighborhood, kind of like your brothers, your cousins. Everybody felt like your cousin in Williamsburg if you went to school with them, or the friends of your brothers. You know, they come, Danny, play that song. No. Put on the Spring Affair, Donna Summer. And you did it. You just wanted to make them happy. But when I went to the roller disco, that's where I really started to learn how to really, really mix and learn the craft, because I had so many sessions to play 5 days a week. And that's when I was also more legal to go to the city's clubs I'm talking about. So after a night like going out to Starship, well, no, that was during Miami Lounge. That was more Paradise Garage. That I'd go from the garage, stay up all night. Sometimes I would go to Vinyl Mania and beg, what was that song he was playing? I want to go bang, I need it. Oh, he's only got that in reel-to-reel. That ain't coming out for a while. I stayed up for this. Then I used to go straight from the garage, not always, but a couple of times, from the adrenaline, straight to the roller disco to do the matinee at noon. So here I am playing for moms and their kids, going around in this roller rink, and I'm playing Moody by ESG. And the owner's calling the phone in the booth, DJ, pick up, DJ, pick up. These kids want to hear Always and Forever and Wishing on a Star. I don't even know.
And you're playing Time Warp by Eddie Grant.
Yes. Like, what is this?
Or Living on the Front Line, because you're in Larry the Van Kill You with it. You were like,
Money, No Love. I could just name so many. But, they wanted to hear the radio stuff. So somehow that lasted for almost 3 years.
3 years, 5
years. Yeah, a lot of good stuff was coming out at that era. Like I was starting to get in the record pool, and there was all the, the Whispers and all those kind of like bands, and then electronic music started happening with the drum machines, and started to become easier to be a DJ.
Yeah, right. You can mix the records without killing yourself through a night.
Yeah, it wasn't like Waiting for the Rain and Whirlwind, like on turntables with no pitch control. And and then it was going to Starship, studying and learning, how to nudge a record, certain things, start from the break, go back to the intro, rework the break, buy 2 copies of a lot of records to make it more exciting. And
at the same time, around that time, Danny, you're watching, as we all did, other DJs becoming superstars at the same time that people we knew. Like Jelly Bean was just starting to get his position at Funhouse not too long after.
It was later. To me, that was like
82-ish, 81, 82, right?
Yeah, I guess you can say that.
Well, let's say 79. Okay, Renee Hewitt is at Furnos, and I know Kenny's working as a light man, Kenny Carpenter.
Yeah.
Right. You got
the Hustle with big hairspray. So I think of Jelly Bean. I went to Funhouse, Roxy. I went to all these clubs. I mentioned I went to the Loft, and I immediately picked up on what David was doing, because no matter how I evolved with music, whether it was disco or Kraftwerk, Marauder, and so on, my first love was always soulful music. I loved some rock and roll. I still listen to it. But the Philly and Motown sound is what raised me, if you will. which is why it made so much sense when I started going to Inferno, and then Starship played a lot of funky stuff, but they were playing Casablanca disco as well and stuff relative to that. But the Loft was more similar to my roots with the Philly and the, what can I think of? Can I think of like Los Conquistadores Chocolates, and there's so many. I don't want to start thinking of all these titles now. But quickly after that, my friends from the neighborhood that used to come to the roller disco that were my age or older were like, Danny, you got to go to the garage. You got to go to the garage. Tell me about Larry. And of course I had heard about it, but it was a membership only club. I wasn't in for the record yet. And it just seemed like it, for no reason at all, it took some time for me to get there. So 78, 79, 77, I started going to clubs in Manhattan. But it wasn't until late 79, early 80 that I discovered the garage. And then everything really fully made sense then. And I tell the story when I walked in the garage. Back then, I think the garage was still only open on Saturdays and just one night a week. And I believe the opening hours was 1 a.m. till like 11 a.m. zone. And I got there early. And when I got there, you're walking up that famous ramp. You go to the booth where you pay your $15 and the big Paradise Garage neon sign above the register. And you hear the music coming out of the wall through the vents for the AC or just the air. And you just can't wait to get beyond that wall to see what you're walking up. You might be in a long line as well. And you hear the music coming out of that wall. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to just get beyond that door and see what I'm hearing and what they've all been telling me. You got to go to the garage. You got to go to the garage. So get in, whip that turn right near a stack. And all the lights were still on, like all the pin spots, all the main dance lights were on. They were still changing gels, adjusting shit with ladders. And I'll never forget it. I was reborn with Peter Brown, Do You Want to Get Funky With Me? And he just kept playing like that Burning Love breakdown, which is very minimal. And to me, it's the birth of minimal in a way.
I wanna take a fire on its high.
Yeah.
Highness.
Had these
And it's slow. And it's slow and it's sexy and it's erotic and the whole.
And I knew it because
You're playing it.
Right. Because this wasn't until like 79, 80 that I heard him playing that. But, I already had the 12-inch and I'm hearing something that I knew. And it was crystal clear. The record has an amazing appeal because of its minimalness. So it was magnified by 1,000 from wherever I ever heard it, from Miami Lounge or in a car. And I was like, took my breath away. So now I'm like just leaning on that extension, like looking around, absorbing it like a sponge, taking it in, like, what am I witnessing? What am I about to witness? Because there wasn't that many people there yet. And then sure enough, slowly, the room is getting, people are coming in quickly and the lights are starting to get down and Larry's going up to the mezzanine to where his booth wasn't very visible. I mean, you could see him up there, but it wasn't like at all like what people see and want to see today is this close to the DJ and face him.
Now in those days,
hand on a stage.
High. All those clubs' boots were away, like the Wizard of Oz, away from the dance floor.
Yeah. And I was mesmerized, and it immediately became my favorite club. And I started going weekly, and I became a Paradise Garage addict. And I was a lot of a wallflower because I just couldn't believe what I was hearing, seeing, watching, feeling, because the people, it was different than everywhere else. It was almost like going to like a dance studio, just watching people express themselves with their bodies and stuff. And, I always remind people that, again, this was before Paradise Garage opened on Fridays as well, but it was always a predominantly gay black club. And Larry's music was that. It was a soulful, up-tempo disco sound. So, Pleasure, Take a Chance. I'm like, what? He would just come right in with like, sometimes his mixing made no sense, but it made so much sense. Because it was like, you kidding me? Did you just do that? Like, it just came in with that horn, it would just like knock you on the head right out of the speaker. But you loved it. And to watch the reaction from the people erupt, from how he did it or where he brought it in from. Yeah. Nobody else played like that. And
nobody else could get away with that.
Exactly.
We would have been fired.
Exactly.
Dan, explain that. You would have went home to try to do that. Explain that. Because I tried it. I got fired from Bear Jones for that. I tell that story. Go ahead.
I do kind of tell people that about how where we are now in this modern era, like our job's not really to make people dance anymore. Just make them stay there, because if you were a DJ back in our days and you cleared the floor, the owner would come up to you and say, oh, put something on these people know and want to dance to. You just cleared the floor.
How about this one? Play something good.
Yeah.
You like remember that one, right? You got something good. Can you put it on right now? Like right now.
Otherwise, you'd lose your job to another DJ. It was as simple as that. You keep clearing the floor, you're not a good DJ. You weren't helping the bar, make money or look good with an empty dance floor. That was a whole different concept at the Loft and the Garage. People were there because they knew they were going to hear good stuff and in a different way. And, there was a lot of, one thing that people, I don't know if they know this or to look at it this way. And I could relate the Paradise Garage to something that happened years later, 10 years later, with the Sound Factory and Junior Vasquez and Phil Smith and Christina Visca. When Garage was there on King Street, those years, there was nowhere else to go. Larry had the market cornered because it was the only after hour of its kind besides the Saint. Now, the Saint was predominantly white gay, playing the high energy, Patrick Cowley and so on, and tons of other great records, great songs and artists. But the Garage was more Salsoul, Prelude, West End, Tanner Gardner, and, the indie stuff as well. Billy Who. But yeah, so if you were going to Better Days and it closed at 4, you'd want to go to the Garage for after hours. If you left to Zanzibar, but you had to be a member. So you couldn't get in unless you were a member or with a member. So that, on top of Larry's unique style and that Richard Long sound system, made it so special. There was nowhere else on earth like that. Nowhere. You had your Funhouse, you had your Studio 54, which also was an RLA sound system, but it wasn't the Garage. The Garage had no liquor. The Garage was a place to go and gyrate and watch incredible performances by the groups that Larry did a lot of remixes for, the Tanner Gardners and the Lace and Christy Wilshire and Hanson and Davis and Chaka Khan and Patti LaBelle and so many life-changing moments there because it really, 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 really touched my soul like no other club. It was soulful. And here I was in a room full of probably 70% Black.
Yeah, I would say that's about right.
Yeah.
And him playing church every week to everybody and giving him his sermon the way
I'm glad you said that word because
like
being raised Catholic, I went to Catholic school for 6 years. Of course, I had to go to church a lot. This was another version of church. It just was like, okay, this is the after party after you went to church, some kind of thing. Because what Larry was doing with the music, the people were reacting to it and what's the word? Not reacting, but participating. The people were participating with the song. And, he could lower the volume and get the room to sing, And I always tell people how just that alone gives me goosebumps and just make me feel like, well, they never did that at Starship. Loft didn't do that at Zanzibar, maybe Zanzibar, but I can't remember. I didn't go there that much. But Saint, wherever, where have you, all these clubs, Eliphas, I don't remember any other DJ lowering the volume and getting the whole crowd, 1,000 people, to sing that song. And then boom, comes back in. He knew how to slap you in the face again, like with the sound. So I learned a lot there. I learned from Larry how to be an artist as a DJ, how to make people feel what I'm feeling inside through the song, through the track, through the mixer, and through the levels, knowing how to keep back and not put everything on 10. You got to save that.
That peaking, right? That peak feel when you want to bring the room to that.
Exact crescendo. Natural crescendos. No snare rolls.
No disco confetti. We're talking through the music.
Yeah, there was no snare rolls. There was no knobs on the mixer that would give you the cappuccino.
Yeah, the air street.
If you wanted a flange, you had to play
22. Come pick up your coffee. Number 22. Pick up your coffee. None of that shit. Bravo, Danny. Yes.
That's where I learned it. I love my effects. Don't get me wrong. I love the Pioneer mix with the onboard effects. But, less is better theory.
No, your effect was like how we all had on a piece of vinyl with maybe some sort of air effect or something.
Yeah. I said if you could put flange on the mixer now, but if you wanted to get flange back then, you had to play 2 records at the same exact time, or we used the reverb from the reel to reel to get the reverb that made no sense off beat, but it was fun.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It was an effect.
Right. All part for the night. And you know what? At that time, it was so fresh and new. Even if it was off beat, it was okay.
Yeah.
It was natural. Yeah. It was a natural.
And that's the thing about Larry. Like, he took chances. People need to know and understand that he was working with Thorin's turntables, which had the wheel in the middle. And, had to keep lifting up the needle. You couldn't really back cue on those turntables, which in latter years, Larry just got to the point where he stopped mixing and just let records end. People would clap, and then he'd start the next one. That's another story.
That's another story. But here,
that's another zone.
I do remember Joey and them having to run up to change the rubber bands because through the night, the bands would get, because they were belt driven, the bands would get wobbly and the songs would get wobbly. But that's a whole other thing. That was all part of being in his living room. You were allowed for him. Who was going to fire him? His daddy? Michael Broder? I mean, that's all he...
It almost happened. I know some stories where it almost happened.
Yes.
But again, I don't want to get to the negative side of things,
Well, at the same time, like you said, he cornered the market. all those haters were on the side praying for her to fall off her crown. Just like every great DJ has that happen.
Yeah, because you had one club and 100,000 DJs that wanted to do it.
Right. Everybody wants to play. Yeah. I could be better than him. I could do better. I am this. I am, you hear this all the time. Yeah. Oh, he's tired. But
I don't know him. I got to know Larry through the record pool, to go into the office a few times for membership and all that. And I don't think what I got from him was that he was an insecure person. I think he felt stable and comfortable at his job. I mean, Paradise Garage and Larry were, a marriage with Richard Long and the sound system, Michael Brody and Jaime. And it was a family. And it was like an extension of the Loft, just, 100 times magnified, where you felt like you were at a house party, but at a big nightclub. You were greeted by the coat check people. You got to know the people behind the bar and the snack area. And it was cool. Security in front was always friendly too. Noel. What I was going to say is that, yeah, you could sense where some DJs were insecure because, it was territorial back then. Everybody wanted to cross that bridge to Manhattan and get a job in a big club. So
because you made it. If you got Manhattan, now you're
right.
Danny's in Manhattan. Oh my God. Yeah. All our friends would say, he's in Manhattan now.
Maybe now I could afford a car.
Yeah. We're not talking even about the money, but that you crossed the bridge and you got into an establishment that lets you play the whole night. Again, opened to close. There was no opening DJ then. Right. None of that stuff.
Exactly. That was our job. And that's also part of where it made sense, just made simple sense that we told a story and a journey. Because you're not going to play for 8 hours, 9 to 5-ish, or, 10 to 4, whatever it might be. You're not going to go in there and start with, San Francisco by the Village People. You're going to start with the early, slower, funky. It could be, cut from a Stevie Wonder album or something. All I Do, whatever. But you tell a story, and then you have your natural crescendos in the night, which at the Garage, there was a lot of crescendos because it was within the songs, a lot of them. And if the band played, forget it. But you were just as excited when Larry came back on. That was like another crescendo.
Yeah, because he would rock you weekend, either before the show or after the show to get everybody hyped up again. You're like, yeah. You 6 o'clock in the morning in Garage is like 1:30 in the morning at a regular place. It's like 6 o'clock was fully full. Remember, Danny, 6 a.m. is full power there. It's not like, 1 o'clock at a regular spot.
Yeah. And again, Larry could drop it down to Heartbreak Hotel by the Jacksons. And you're like, what? And you loved it. You loved it. Because, you knew he wasn't going to stay on like a down-tempo, dreary kind of feeling unless he was in one of his moods where there was one time where he played it 4 times in a row. Can you imagine? It's like, what is she going through?
He's pushing his record down everybody's throat. All right, so the education of her being a drama queen, and then you had other DJs like Jim Burgess at West and all these great DJs doing their things as well and making major impact with records and club-wise. You're growing up, coming up. This is pre-house music, everybody. Pre-house. It's still disco. We're finding R&B disco, which is becoming like D-Train era, that stuff. I know you're making a way now that you want to get your own spot. What do you do now? You're getting all this in, and you're saying to yourself, I need to do what I do now.
Right.
Where we go from there for you?
Right, because this would be like what happened after the roller disco, you know? And you mentioned D-Train, and that's where I started to like get those records. While I was playing at the roller disco, I would stop at the Prelude office, West End office, Bobby Shaw, you know, get promos. He was always cool. And this was before Strictly Rhythm and Nervous and Emotive and 8-Ball. But electronic music, drum music, Skipworth and Turner, you know, Billy Ocean, these records were coming through with drum machines and making it easier for us to mix. Thinking of Dynasty and Shalimar, you know, it was all becoming like a sound for the roller disco, but a lot of it was a garage sound too. I mean, he didn't really go into like, thank God, a freestyle zone, you know, like, because you had like once Give Me Tonight, Let the Music Play came out, you know, that took it to a whole different genre was born, which kind of like stemmed from a Planet Rock, Numbers by Kraftwerk, but that's a whole nother story in itself. But yeah, so it was like, where am I taking this? What's the next phase? Because the roller disco wasn't going to last longer. But now I had skills. Now I was in a record pool. I joined the Shure record pool in the Bronx. Bobby E. Davis. Yeah. His name is on Slammed Again. Alexis P. Suda. Bobby passed away, rest in peace. I didn't know that. I found that out later in years. And so I was getting all the promos.
Not you in our pool. You, Timmy Regisford. That's right. Benji Candelario. That was the only pool that would have me, guys.
Yeah.
I couldn't get him for the record.
Yeah, me either.
No way. Never happening. Till later, I became the producer DJ. Then they want you. Right. At that time, Bobby's like, come on, you come with us.
Judy had her elite.
Yes, Judy's pool for the record was the creme de la creme. But if you got in a record pool, Danny, how important was that? Even getting in a record pool?
Oh, just getting in a pool, yeah.
It's like, I got in a pool.
Yeah. You felt validated, you know? And so now comes about 1983, and then the roller disco closes, and I'm out of work. So now I'm of age, and I don't remember where I saw an ad, but there was an ad for a nightclub in Manhattan on 39th Street and 2nd Avenue called Stix, S-T-I-X. And I applied for that job the same day as Leslie Doyle. We both auditioned separately, and we both got hired. Stix was a gay club that was formerly called the Barefoot Boy, which I didn't know of. And now it was this new club, Stix, and we got hired. The thing with Stix was that it was more of a lily white club. So, you know, songs we'd be playing was like Bonnie Pointer, Heaven Must Have Sent You, and Twilight Zone, and, you know, these disco-y kind of records. But now I'm just such a big garage head. I only got to play garage-ish music during the opening. But then you had to get into this more of a Saint vibe. And I was like, ugh, I didn't really like it. I just wasn't into the fluffy, high energy Carol Gianni music. I love, you gotta give it up for Hit and Run Lover. But So Many Men, So Little Time, and high energy, and hated it. But it was my first job in a club in Manhattan. So, you know, you're a DJ, you got to play.
Did you have to play ABBA, Lay All Your Love on Me?
And the Visitors. The Visitors.
Oh, you know what I mean. We know about the Visitors, but I'm talking about the Lay All Your Love on Me is like the gay anthem at the Saint, where you having to compromise your sound to fit the job, to keep this job, right?
Yep, 100%.
This is where I go back to how Larry Levan could do.
Don't stop, you're moving me. I mean, don't get me wrong, some of them were cute. But when it got into like you know what I hated? Probably the worst part of my career was when they started doing like Broadway songs like Memory All Alone in the Moon. I'm like, no, you can't be making me play this. I want to play Love Is the Message and, you know, Moody, you know, the garage records, which we got to play because thankfully Leslie Doyle, she was a great DJ, and her boyfriend was Bruce Forrest, who used to work at Better Days. And this is when I got into For the Record, because now there was a connection. So now I'm playing at Sticks regularly, 3-4 nights a week. It was just me and her. It's open 7 nights a week. And now I'm in a record pool. I get to meet Chip Pettibone through Bruce Forrest. And, you know, I was getting to know the industry through the garage, you know, the record pool, Danny Cribbett. So many names. So many names are gone right now, too. It's sad. Lost a lot of people in that era. And where did I go from Sticks? Well, there's a lot of history right here that people have no idea what I'm about to say.
Say it now. Say it. Say it. Please don't hold that.
I'm so old that once I got the job at Sticks, I also got gigs at Crisco Disco, which was probably the most infamous, legendary underground after-hour nightclub ever in New York. It was open 7 days a week until 10 a.m. It was slow until 4 a.m. After 4 a.m., the Mud Club, Hurrah, Studio 54, Xenon, wherever people were partying and wanted a place to go afterwards, it was Crisco. People have in mind Crisco, like they think of it as like a leather bar kind of thing. But no, that was a bar that the owner originally owned. But then he took over this big building on 15th Street and still called it Crisco. But it was a raw after-hour underground nightclub, completely illegal. They sold liquor. There was no liquor license. So it was a very unique place. Great DJs, Frank Core, Danny Rodriguez, For the Record pool members. And I got to play there a few times. Then I got a residency, and then it got shut down. That was in 83. In 83. Which I also got, I could tell people that they'd be like, where are these places? I was a guest DJ twice at the Anvil. God forgive me.
No, where Felipe Rose was discovered and danced at.
Yeah.
From Village People. Yes, the Anvil on the west side, 12th Avenue, everyone.
I know. It was like forbidden for a kid like me from Brooklyn, you know, Catholic Italian.
Wait. Jesus Cristo, Mary, you're going to the place you're doing. What are you doing?
I promise I won't go in the basement.
Right, no, it's a nice place, Ma. It's really nice. Good people. They're dancing. They really like what I'm doing. They really like me.
Can you believe it? So, yeah, I have a lot of history behind me with that.
That's all right. I didn't know about the Anvil part. I didn't know. I know Richie Rivera played there too, I think.
Yeah.
If I remember.
Yeah. That was that era. They asked me to play twice. I remember playing Stars by Sylvester, you know, getting a little like mystical, Sea Hunt by Mega, Patrick Howley. Oh. But yeah, again, it was part of the fluffy stuff too.
But because you had to. You had two crowds in those. Yeah. You didn't have just garage. You had 12 West, let's say, or that kind of crowd. Saint, and you
right. It was all intertwined. It was like, again, and bring up Leslie, because Leslie was really good friends with some of the DJs from the Saint. besides Robbie Leslie, there was Michael Fearman, Sharon White. There's one in particular, Sean Buchanan. He passed away, but Leslie was good friends with him. So what we were doing at Six was a mashup of garage, my life there for several years, and Bruce Forrest playing soul, Steve Arrington and all that stuff at Better Days, and her being really good friends with the Saint DJs. Now we're both DJs at Six. So yeah, we could drop it down and rock, bra, boom, boom, ba-da, da-da-da-da. We got the crowd going to some of that stuff, but we couldn't really do long sets of garage, Better Days, Zanzibar House, Loft. And after Six, I don't know if I left there or if it closed down. I don't remember. But then I was in limbo for a couple of years. So I got an offer to go to Miami to play at a club that was open there called Cheers. Frank Core moved down to Florida. Tommy Moore, a DJ from New York, also moved down there. Tommy got the job at a club called Cheers. Now they took over a store next door. It was making a dance floor. It was just a video bar. They built a dance floor, said we're going to open 7 nights a week. We need another DJ. Tommy called me. I tried it out. I wound up staying there for 5 years. He and I were the resident DJs, just like Sticks, 7 nights a week. We would split the shifts, 4 nights, 3 nights, fill-ins. And that's where the rest happened for me.
Yes, I tried to tell you, but you hear him say this 7 nights a week. It's a job, everybody. It's not just like he's getting on a plane like later on in life.
Yeah.
This is, I got to go to work every 4 to 5 nights a week.
That did not exist. I mean, they didn't have flyers when I started. We had 8-track tapes, and you put the stamp on it. I still can see Paul's name on a stamp on several of the DJs. But I had a stamp made. It says, Danny Tenaglia, DJ, cassettes and 8-tracks and cassettes. And when Brooklyn was still 212, I could show you a record. I came across, I don't know why it was on Get It Up by the Time 12-inch, but I had the stamp on there. I was like, that's pre that. But yeah, so this is before flyers and raves and, club culture in a whole different way, Limelight, Club Kids, Ecstasy. It just went to a whole different planet.
So you're down there 5 years in Miami playing. 5 years.
Right. So in 1985, I established Miami, did a residency at Cheers. And 1985 was also the first year of the Winter Music Conference, which I had missed because that was March and I moved there in October, I think. I'm a little forgetful. I don't know if I just missed it because I remember going to Miami in late 84. I started working at Cheers. I think I just came back to New York to get my stuff and moved to Florida. So I missed the first conference. I didn't miss any other after that. I participated in like 34 conferences. And that's where I got recognition, was at the Winter Music Conference. Showcases came on at the nightclubs after, the conference would be held at like a convention center, the hotels, delegates would come from all over. You get the badge, you'd be on a panel, you'd watch other people on panels, all like, I was so ecstatic to see like Arthur Baker, Jelly Bean, Chet Pettibone, Africa Bambaataa on these panels talking about their careers and me feeling like, this is what I want to do because I hadn't really gotten to the studio yet. So now I'm just a DJ. And at Cheers, we would have some of the acts showcase themselves. And I remember having Niobe, Joy Sims, Taylor Dane, several people. And the thing with me in Cheers was that our club, like the Garage and Sound Factory, had the market cornered because we were the only after-hour licensed place. So Cheers had a legal till 6 a.m. liquor license. Everywhere else had to close at 3. Again, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. I mean, and everybody come in right after 3, you'd get that last crowd packed in there.
Yeah. So, like I was saying about Crisco, so with Cheers, after 3, we would get the gothic crowd from Fire and Ice, where Tony Garcia and Carlos Menendez were DJs. Where, it's funny, I just played a record in Brooklyn the other night that the sound guy sent me a text yesterday saying, I can't believe you played that. Thank you for playing that. And it was definitely from my gothic period. Do you know Our Darkness by Anne Clark? Yeah, it's got a punch to it, and it's like this woman speaking poetry. It's like the kind of record you could imagine Larry playing because it was avant-garde and different, but it had the chops and it had like the break parts. And so yeah, when a lot of the clubs closed there, straight or gay, we would get the after-hour crowd. The industry also flocked there. I could just think of, oh my God, I'm thinking their names now, Curtis Urbina. One last time I thought of Curtis. And Bobby Shaw and Mike Weiss and Gladys Pizarro, because now these labels were coming into play. Because I was there 85 to 90. So every year we had showcases. And Larry Flick at Billboard started writing about me. Kerry Mason, a Dance Music Report, which was part of Tommy Boy Records. So I got to meet Tom Silverman in Miami and his wife, and the whole industry. Mario Lopez from Polygram, and Tony Monti, Vince Pellegrino, all these people. What's his name? Brad LeBeau.
And they would come back, Danny, talking about the night at the spot.
Yeah.
After everybody recapping after WMC, talking about your sets.
Right. And I was also a Billboard reporter.
Right.
Yeah. And I was in Bill Kelly's record pool. Bill Kelly's the owner of the Winter Music Conference. Back then it was 2 record pools joined. It was Bill Kelly and Lou Pacenti of the Florida record pool in Fort Lauderdale. So then in 1988, I was like, I want to make a record because Latin Rascals, Mantronics, Jelly Bean, Shep, so many names, Arthur Baker, Oli Jalari, of course. Everybody was getting in the studio and making records, cutting records, and you mentioned Benji. And I'm like, I knew I had that gift in me since I was that kid that displayed talent with piano by ear. Same thing with guitar. We're like, you got to put this kid in lessons. He understands music. And then I was like, I need to get in the studio. I need to make a record. So the sampling thing started. Acid House, Chicago started knocking them out left and right. I was like, I got to make a record. So I went to the studio. I went in and I made Waiting for a Call. I called myself Deep State. And I got signed to Atlantic Records through Vince Pellegrino and Ken Commissar and Joey Carvello. By the time it came out, it was Joey Carvello. Ken Commissar went to Epic. And then I started getting hired. Ken Commissar was at Epic. He hired me to remix Dead or Alive. And I did that and Found Love by Double D while I was still living in Miami. And Found Love went #1 in Billboard Dance Chart. And then I did The Love I Lost on 7th Avenue on Atlantic Records by 7th Avenue. And, you know, they were all telling me, now I talk to these people every week because I'm a Billboard reporter. And they're like, Danny, you got to come back to New York. You got to come back to New York. If you want to pursue this career and be like Jelly Bean and Shep and your mentors, you got to do it. Otherwise, Miami's got Expose and Miami Sound Machine. You're not going to get very far there if your roots are garage and all that. And And that's, the rest is really the history. I moved back to New York in 90 and pursued that. Met Peter Dow. Tommy Musto was a big, big influence on me as a programmer because he helped me. My first remix in New York was Patrick O'Hearn featuring some rapper, and Tommy Musto was going to program for me. Introduced me to D&D Studios on 39th Street, and he helped me hire Barbara Tucker to do background vocals. So she was doing the ad-libbing. And this is 1990.
Right.
So now I didn't have a DJ job until 96 in New York.
Right, I remember that. I remember you were out for a while. I remember that.
Well, I could keep talking. There was that time I did get a couple of gigs, just no residency. Like I would play, I can't even remember some of the places. I got to play with Tony Humphries at, what's that club? Aqua Booty, which was Jackie 60.
Right.
Johnny Donnell. Yeah, that club was twisted. I loved it. That's where I started experiencing, Paul Alexander on the microphone. Hello. It was just, entering a world. It was like almost like poetry, kind of like House of Extravaganza type phrases and things. But Johnny Donnell was the main DJ, Jackie 60. But then there was a night called Aqua Booty, and I played there a few times, even with Ted Patterson. I love Ted Patterson.
Oh, yes, Greg Cuoco. That's who did Aqua Booty.
Greg Cuoco.
Greg.
I went to him in Whole Foods once or somewhere like that. It was like, Greg. So you had me, Tony Humphries, Ted Patterson, and I can't really remember who else. And so I was guest DJing at some of these places. I don't remember what year it was, but I can also tell people I actually got to play at Studio 54 once. It was horrible. It was like this off night. They rented the place, because it still always remained as a theater for events. And do you know Jackie Christie? She used to be at 8 Ball Records all the time. Well, some promoter, I don't remember who it was, hired me and her to play one night at Studio 54. And the DJ booth was in the opposite of where the main DJ booth was for. What was that considered like the main seating area when you're prestigious?
Oh, you mean the orchestra seats and all the...
Right. Yeah. So it was in the opposite of where the heyday DJ booth used to be. And it was, it was a flop, but I got to play there.
Yeah, unless you played during the era of Richie Kazar, or that's the true studio.
Nicky Siano.
Yeah. Or even Kenny Carpenter.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. I got to meet Michael Jackson there.
Yeah, I know. I saw the pictures. That picture is around. Yes.
I've never posted that picture on Instagram. I don't know why, but me and my manager, Guy, was talking about it. It was like, we come across flyers for something, for some merchandise. And because you never use that picture of you and Michael Jackson. I said, I don't know why. I said, I think because I can't just post it without telling the story.
Yeah, you got to explain it.
Yeah, and it's like Instagram is like a lot of
it's just me and Michael at studio. We want to know. We know with you, there's always a story. There's always a story. It has to be, because you're not just. These are not moments like now that just happen with a flash of a camera. Right. There was a lot of things that went on behind the scenes that, unless you say it, they don't really get it. Let's say, you really explain it.
And without getting into the whole story, what people in a novelty, the nostalgic kind of way, is why was Michael Jackson there in the first place? It was a private party for Yul Brynner's birthday. People are going to be like, Yul Brynner, who's that? He's a famous actor. Telly Savalas, the King and I.
Right. Don't forget the 10 Commandments. He plays the Egyptian pharaoh.
Where's your Moses now?
I'll let your people go. I'll let you know, that's how I always remember the 10 Commandments. Every holiday they put that on. There's Yul Brynner.
I don't know why I said Telly Savalas before, because they're both.
But it's true. The Kojak, he had no hair in his head.
Yeah. Telly Savalas and Yul Brynner.
So it was a Yul Brynner party in studio, but Michael Jackson ends up there, and you happen to be there.
And who's the guy I said, who's your Moses now? Would have been Ernest Borgnine. Made no sense in the movie. No sense, but maybe we could say that for another moment.
Moses. This is great.
It is Sunday.
It's great. Are you kidding? So you're in New York now, and I remember that time for you. You were playing soulful house music too, and
right.
records, and you also made another great track, harmonica track. Mm-hmm. This is pre-Twisted, you jumping that direction and changing. I'm going to ask that question. The soulful house to all of a sudden Danny makes a right turn and changes musically, and we were all scratching our heads going, why? I asked you this 25 years, whatever, 20, and I remember you telling me why, but I said, why did you do it? And we know why, but only you can explain it here,
Thank you, Lenny. I think I'm going to finally explain it in a way that came to me, like how I evolved from such soulful roots to being like, I just played in LA on last Sunday, 100% techno, like real pure classic techno that would have made no sense. I even said to the driver, was asking me about the garage that brought me back and forth from the hotel to the club. He's like a avid follower of, he's probably watching this, young guy too. I said, Larry would be rolling in his grave. Here's what I'm going to play tonight. But at the same time, I think he'd be proud to see, because, nobody maybe thought that he would be playing Problems d'Amour, and records like, some of those off the wall tracks. And so I'm going to explain how it came to me, how it changed. First, I'll say that there was besides Jackie 60 playing a couple times, Johnny Donnell and Aqua Booty, it came to me before some of the other small places that I played. And I wanted to mention that Matt E. Silver, does that name ring a bell to you? He was a promoter.
I remember that. I haven't heard that name.
I can't believe it just came to me.
I remember that. I was like, Matt E. I remember that name. Yes.
Matt E. Silver. In Manhattan, the Club de Sound Factory was only open on Saturdays. It was similarly designed and built to be a model of the Paradise Garage. Saturdays only, no liquor, dance party, after hours. Junior Vasquez was a DJ that all originated for him, Christina, through Baseline. But I never got to go to Baseline because I was living in Miami. And then Matt E. Silver, I don't know if he convinced Phil, but he got them to open Friday at the Sound Factory. And I got to play there with Louis Vega, Doc Martin, and Derek Fox. And Junior wanted to kill us all, but that's another story. But yeah, so then eventually they opened Fridays as well. And so yeah, people were going there, and I didn't get a job in a nightclub as a DJ until 1996 at the Roxy, But in rewinding, I was making, I did harmonica track on Arthur Baker's label Minimal. I did Equinox Code 718 for Strictly. I called myself the King Street Crew on Nervous Records. And those were like, my deep house roots. But nothing was really happening from that as far as like, it was Tony Humphries, Timmy Regisford. Yeah, these guys were playing it. But I wasn't seeing a penny in sales or anything like that. And where it took a turn was Tommy Musto introduced me to Peter Dow, amazing keyboard player, friend, and Vanessa. And Peter did keyboards for me on the Escape Club, call it Poison. And from there, we built a relationship. And then I hired him in a few remixes. Then they asked me to remix their song, Surrender Yourself. It came out on Columbia Records. It was an alternative rockish jazz kind of vibe. And they asked me if I want to do like a dance remix. So they gave me full reins to just completely make a new production out of it, with Vanessa even reciting the lyrics in a poetry kind of way and adding some snippets like do, getting fun with it. And we had an amazing time. And I took their album cut, turned it into like a 13-minute, what do they call it? The ballroom mix. Because it was giving you ballroom, like voguing style. I put stabs from Love Is the Message, and I put a salsa loop in there. And it had an edge to it, but it was still my deep roots first. But this song started to get played by DJs around the world. And right around that same time, within my remix history, I got hired from Warner Brothers to remix World, The Price of Love by New Order. And I was I did the musical version where the chord structures follow, the changes. And then I did a version that I guess you could say was inspired by a harder element via DJ Pierre with his wild pitch sound. Soulful, but it grabbed you in, and
chords, the stabbing feel, that funky.
Yeah, he definitely created something with the wild pitch sound.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So I was absorbing that, and I know I said to you earlier, it came to me how I could have described this change. So now this is like probably 93, 94 into 95. Doing Surrender Yourself and Bottom Heavy and a couple of others, I can't remember, started to get me noticed around the world. In 1993, I got an offer to go play in Italy, which I never traveled before to be a DJ. And things just really evolved from there. I toured with Kerry Chandler, Merck, Oscar G, Green Velvet when he was Kashmir, Daget. I had remixed You Got Me Up, which is going on 30 years next year. And 10 City was with us. There was so many people. And then Kerry Chandler and I went on to Rome and Naples. It started in Rimini. So here I am building more relationships. But it seemed like the New Order track that I remixed, they declined that mix, but allowed me to use what I did. So I removed the vocal and I added, Will You Just Look Over Your Shoulder from the movie. And it became Bottom Heavy. And it was my version of wanting to go a wild pitch kind of way as opposed to soulful. And it worked. Now I'm getting charted. I'm getting phone calls, Ministry of Sound, Tokyo. And I'm realizing that doing stuff with more of an edge is what was getting more attention.
Makes total sense. Makes total sense.
So you probably know I did a cover version of Look Ahead with Carol Sylvan.
100%. I loved it.
Yeah.
The Norman Connors remake. I know. Aquarian Dream, yes.
And that's a great example of a pre-disco, song, Phoenix, the album. I got the style of a phoenix. So imagine
That's
dropping
what I said to you before, musical taste.
You got it.
So now you're getting calls to travel.
Right.
I know you got the job with Jason McCarthy at Roxy. And it was another change for you. How the hell that, because I knew you as Soulful Danny. Next thing I know, Danny's playing circuit parties and working. Because when you work for Jason McCarthy, the promoter at Roxy at the time, he has a circuit crowd. And Danny will again give you the explanation what I mean by circuit. He'll explain that.
Take your shirts off. That's that Lula song.
That's right. Take your shirts off. I want to be your man. And all those records were going on. That's a circuit party. And Danny won them over. And that was a big thing for him to get that. And congrats at that time. I remember telling you that. Congratulations then when you got that spot. Because Roxy was a gigantic dance floor. Woof, to carry that every week. Maron, you had big responsibility every week.
That big Gary Stewart sound system, which was like, a model of Steve Dash's Phase On. They were all in that Richard Long field. So I guess you could say when my first album came out, I believe it was 94 or it was released in 95, Heart and Soul. And on there, it was called Heart and Soul because we had me featuring Carol Sylvan, Scott White, Dana Volchek on the flute, Eddie Montilla. I did Yesterday and Today. These songs I thought were going to be so revered by the deeper house DJs around the world, and they weren't. They weren't. I just really thought whoever's playing like Little Louis or Masters at Work, Roger Sanchez, they're gonna love this. And I got to say, the only person, rest his soul, that I think gave me the most support was Frankie Knuckles. And compliments too, because you need that. And in the early days, Joe Clausell at Dance Tracks, he was really, really supporting my stuff. He was like, you better bring it to me on reel after you finish it, because I would go there, play on cassette, give him. And so, you need that validation when you're like, otherwise you're like, why am I doing this? But when I was remixing like Patricia Kaas, Rest Some Moi, Jamiroquai, Emergency on Planet Earth, it's like, these are things that you and I get, in that era, but it wasn't doing anything for me. Once I got into the edgier stuff, it's like, okay, now maybe I can buy a car.
He found Jesus, everyone. He found Jesus. He's got the Jesus. No,
I wasn't making no money,
I know that. Tell people that. That's so important. Yeah. They think we were all living larger life. It's not like that back then.
I literally did not have a car until about 1993. I didn't have a car. I had a car in Miami, cheap one, but when I moved back, I came back with nothing. So the remix career, the budget would go all to the recording studio, Tommy Musto, Peter Dow, or whoever else was, helping me, because I wasn't getting big budgets. But it's promotion. And if we skip all the way ahead till today, if you want to be a DJ, you better make a record and get your name out there because that's your business card. And then you know, it's not about passing out cassettes or 8-tracks or demo mixes or giving out a key. You have to get your name out there, resident advisor. Oh, which agency are you with? All that kind of shit. So back then, I wasn't making any money. You know, I was getting by, but not enough to, you know, say, oh, I want to buy a nice living room set or things like that. You know, I'm already in my 30s now, and I ain't got much to show for my self except an extensive record collection. We're still spending a fortune on records. Okay, so now I made the edgier stuff, started playing with an edge, started discovering techno, if you will, in the early years of Drum Code and, you know, when Adam Bayer, I can't even think, so many names. I just want to say how it came to me of why it, let me rephrase this, how it made sense to me and for me, how I evolved from being such a soulful DJ, such a mental Paradise Garage addict, Tony Humphries, and all of that stuff we talked about, from Norman Connors to, you know, fantastic Johnny C. Techno, I think I started to gravitate towards it because it was nothing like disco. It was new and refreshing to me because I found ways to make it refreshing to me. So to explain that, it was like disco garage was mainly established with pianos and Rhodes, strings, brass, flutes, you know, real authentic instruments. And I was raised on that. I loved it. I love music theory. But I think I started to get bored with it. You know, it's like, as a DJ, you know, I'll tell you, like, if I try to explain to you, like, playing classics and stuff, I don't know if I could ever, I don't even know if I even want to ever hear Relight My Fire again. As amazing and legendary and historical as that place holds its place on earth, I could listen to the intro before it gets fluffy, and I could listen to Lolita Holloway coming in at the end. But so many of them became corny as F, and Dr. Love, and so on and so on. Do you love what you feel?
Frank Sinatra and the Johnny Mathis and the Ethel Merman and all the big show crooners. It's just like everybody's doing a disco record now.
Oh, that's even a different planet, you know.
Disco, talk about making trash. It's like everything in life. This is what happens.
No, I would have been right there with the disco sucks, burn the records.
Yeah, right. You'd have been like, enough is enough.
Disco Lucy.
Oh.
Disco Duck.
Disco on crack, everybody.
Love Boat. It just became so corny. And what's that TV show with the Daisy Duke show? The
Dukes of Hazzard.
The Dukes of Hazzard. The Love Boat. What's that song? Keep Your Eye on the Sparrow. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
That was pre-disco. And who was that? Was what's his name?
Can't think of him. I know what you're talking about.
The actor, the one eye, Peter Falk.
Yes. Oh God.
Oh, I'm frozen on your screen.
Columbo is
Columbo. Keep Your Eye on the Sparrow.
Oh my, that's right. Jesus Christ.
That became a disco song.
Well,
So
Yeah, that's what happens when the major companies come in and bastardize. They see money and they just throw everything at it.
I'm going to take a snapshot of the screen. I hate to interrupt you because I'm just on it, but I have to show you later what it looks like. It's just purple.
So you have to you got to click on and off the camera again. I think you locked up.
But I'm frozen by you too, and the people.
Yeah, you're frozen by me. Yeah.
Oh, like
Yeah, it's like I see you smile. It's like you're stuck in.
At least I'm smiling.
You're in glass.
Cam and stuff.
There you go. You're back. You're back. Okay. She's back. She's back.
Hands.
So you get the chance to get the Roxy, and I remember your stuff is elevated now. You got the right people looking at what you're doing. The music is matching you. It's also the music. It's like they say the stars are lining at that time. You're getting your chance now to step out of being behind the scenes and becoming more of a front runner right around that time. You know, and then
and I feel
Twilo comes not too far down the road either. I know when you got the residency there.
I mean, again, my first love will always be deep house and songs with Rhodes and, you know, percussion. And I still play that. I'm not a techno only DJ. If I have the amount of hours to do it, I'm always going to tell a story, because I think a great part of my sets is very tribalism, even if it's through techno, which is what I meant by I find ways to make techno work for me. And that's number one, is by pitching it down. I play techno at an average 126 to 128.
Okay, so you slow it down.
Yeah, always did that. And that's where, besides, like, let's say, like the Winter Music Conference and those showcases that got me recognized, when I started to play around the world and get to know some of these DJs and people that influenced me, we talked about this. They noticed that I would be playing tracks that they knew maybe it came out as 140 BPM, but I'm playing it at like 126. So let's say somebody train spotted me, said, "What is that track?" And I'll say, "Oh, it's Marco Carola on drum code." They're like, "What? I have that." I'm like, "Yeah, but I burned it at -8 to a CD, and then I play it in the CD player and I go even slower." So it made it more, added some funk to it, you know, like a funk and a Latin percussive. Because a lot of the techno tracks have these rhythms that you find them when you slow them down, that there's a rhythm that's giving you percussion and tribal and salsa. So I work now with Tractor for several years, and I'll probably never go back to any other way of playing because of my studio skills, which I never get to express anymore. So I just do stuff live with loops and rhythms. So I'll take techno tracks if they need a little, you know, extra. I got sticks and cowbells and things that just make it complete for me. And people get it because it's a sound that I guess I can't say I hear it. Like if somebody made a record that inspired by me, I wouldn't say, "Oh, it's a Danny sound," 'cause I can't really put it together. But I do understand it when guys like Sasha and Digweed, who I love, could say Danny weaves deep house, tribal, progressive, and techno. I guess that all started with Elements, maybe earlier with Bottom Heavy, but because I started to get to play with a lot of these guys too. So either I'm opening for them or they're opening for me. We hear what each other's doing, and you know,
that's influential on each other. you're changing their sound and they're changing your sound, but what you're hearing.
And music kept evolving too. And, between the record pools, record stores, you would hear something. I mean, I think if Larry was at a record store and, okay, he's doing I'll Be Your Pleasure, remember that one? Esther Williams. And Gino Socio, Try It Out, and all these things. But then what's White Horse by Laid Back?
Yeah, that's a crazy record. Comes out of
has nothing to do with Esther Williams, but that's
how about E2 E4 when he played E2?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's totally right.
Concert.
Yeah, but I'm saying is when you talk about playing, that kind of record, R&B dance record to that,
right? So that's again my upbringing from my aunt, the piano. Sergio Mendes and all of that. It was, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Cream, Beatles, and then the Philly Motown stuff. It really, I guess, was perfect. Me calling the album Heart and Soul.
Perfect name.
But it was later that it developed, more branded as a techno as a DJ. I don't think I've really made any techno records yet.
Right. You're still on your way because you're almost about ready to get with Tribal, which you're just about.
And then everything closed.
And then, getting right to that point where you become a very big artist on those labels.
Yeah. And again, working around the world, I don't know if you know, but I have performed in 45 countries now. And I've been back to the same ones so many times. And I've gotten to meet and play with so many of the greatest DJs that are out there now. I mean, and they influenced me. Again, whether I was on before them or after them, you get to hear these different DJs. I mean, who really helped influence me a lot as well was Carl Cox. Because I think I met Carl right at the time that I was starting to play at Twilo. And maybe a little bit before that. But they asked me to play with him and Jim Masters at a basement club in London. And it was pure tech house. Like, not necessarily banging bonsai techno where it's like annoying and just, scratch your eyeballs out kind of music.
Might make you crazy because that's like when you go to Germany and you hear that super fast music, you're like, it's too much. Too much. Wow.
And it was just too much, too fast, too hard, no soul. But when I got together and played with Carl Cox and Jim Masters, it was called Sub Bass because it was a basement. Man, I could tell you it was probably the hottest party I've ever played at. I don't know how I didn't faint. When the sweat's just coming on the walls? Because it was a basement. And
no air.
England doesn't have air conditioning.
No air. No air.
It was so wild that how could it not influence and inspire me to see a crowd reacting that way to what we were doing? And Carl was a champion with I'm trying to think of some labels, maybe Bush Records back then. God, I'm not prepared. Tech House.
Everybody Google it. Everyone Google it and send Danny what you know about Carl Cox's discography.
Yeah.
Don't worry, you'll be knowing later. You'll get everything. But he was doing his thing. I remember he was playing a lot of that Bush sound and those techno records.
Yeah. And I learned a lot from him. And I was already absorbing this. I was, buying a lot of these records, but I wasn't really getting to play them yet. Because, again, that didn't really start for me until Twilo, where I really started to take a lot of chances. And it was well received by some, by a lot it wasn't. But then Fridays happened at 12.
That's what I was going to ask you. What were you up against when you stepped into Twilo, coming in with the Danny Tenaglia's sound?
Okay. So this is weird how it's all mixed in, because you mentioned circuit parties and Roxy, and then
there was a lot going on at that time. It was a smorgasbord of craziness in New York.
I know. Sedate me, please.
Well, I'm trying to remember the times. I remember I was with Kenny Carpenter, and we were talking about at that time saying Danny got the job with Jason, and then we knew Junior he was playing Twilo, and we this is what we did. We talked to each other. Everybody was talking at that time.
Well, Junior wasn't at Twilo yet.
No, he was at
closed. He was at the factory.
Right.
Okay, so there was a period in 1992 where Frankie Knuckles was a resident at Sound Factory. And I don't remember exactly for how long that lasted, but, Sounds of Blackness, The Pressure, Whistle Song, Star Point, he was playing all these amazing songs. And I think they also had DJs like Susan Morabito, and that's when I don't remember what specifically got. You mentioned his name at the Roxy.
Jason.
Yeah. So he invited me to play at the Roxy, and I knew what to do, because I'd done on the New York scene, New York tribal sound, hard house, and little trancey, if you will. I just don't like the word because it went on to become like EDM, and it's like the Disco Lucy thing. It just got a little bit, but there were some really cool melodic energy songs that worked for me in my sets that I think a lot of maybe New York DJs or circuit DJs maybe wouldn't play, So it just had, I had an edge to me besides knowing what to do in New York. Yeah, I played, some of the Madonna stuff, the Unbreak My Hearts, and, you knew what you had to do. Again, you don't want to clear a floor. They're not facing me at the Roxy, and like just pumping their fist. So I had to keep them dancing. But, it's those in-between tracks that you get them with somehow. And then that makes them realize there's something different happening. There's a different DJ because, other DJs might not play this. But it's, again, how I played it and the tempo that I played it at. Maybe I did an edit, back in those Pro Tools days. Jason hires me to play at Roxy then as a resident. Sound Factory closed, reopened as Twilo, because there was that period where Frankie was there, and then Junior came back. I don't remember the years. I can't tell you exactly.
You're right on. You're right on point. Go ahead. You're right around the time earlier. It's before you got to Roxy, but that's right. Because Frankie had about a half a year Death Mix nights. Frankie, then when Frankie went away, Satoshi played and Morales played.
Right. Exactly.
Then Sound Factory Bar, they moved Frankie to the Friday nights there.
Yeah.
To bring Junior back.
Which Frankie had me open a couple of times for him.
Right.
Or even fill in for him once. And, okay. So now Sound Factory had closed officially. And I guess nobody really knew that Phil Smith and Steve Dash were up to this reopening of it as Twilo. When it did open, of course, it was an immediate success because it was still the Sound Factory with a different name, polished. And, at the end of the day, it's still that address on 27th Street. It's the after hours, had the corner market. People would leave Roxy at 4 a.m., walk to Twilo. Now Twilo calls me and asks me to play Thanksgiving after Frankie Knuckles, the after hours part. I was like, whoa, that's big. So I called Frankie because we were friends, and I told him that they were calling me to ask me to play, and, basically asking for his blessings because I don't want to disrespect. He was like, of course, he was just a bundle of love. And so I got to play with Frankie. He played till 6 a.m. and then I played 6 till whenever, noon. And it was amazing. I played a more harder edge, more of a bottom heavy, I guess I just took it to the next phase. Maybe knew exactly how to follow him because I loved what he was doing. His roots are my roots. But now I was already traveling the world, playing with Carl and all these different DJs at different parts of the world. And I had already adapted, an edge, moving away from the deeper house stuff. And it worked. I couldn't tell you exactly what I played, but it was
no, that's irrelevant. We just know there's certain events that happened that led you into those positions. It was just timing. It was, let's not say luck, but you earned it. You worked for it. You changed gears, and people recognized, and those doors opened. And good for you. God bless. I mean, I always said that.
Yeah.
Serving, you worked for it. You got it. You put your time in. You grafted heavy. You long time, dude. You've been working.
It's all I've ever really done. It's like I can't even.
What else can you do? What else are you gonna do? Now
I
fight.
can mow the lawn.
Right. Go make pizza. Why don't you go make pizza for us now? I mean, all kidding aside, what are you gonna do? You got to fight to get a chance.
Exactly. It's like the dream became the reality across the bridge to Manhattan. I became a DJ in a big nightclub, as opposed to like Sticks, because that was a small bar with a dance floor. But Twilo Roxy was a real thing. And once I got to play after Frankie, Phil Smith immediately asked me if I wanted to be a resident. So, of course, I was leaving the Roxy to become a resident at Twilo. So now I was doing after hours at Twilo. And then they started opening Fridays. And I started playing Fridays. Not every week, but sometimes consecutively, sometimes every other week. But I was also the resident on Saturdays. But now we're starting to do Fridays, which was more geared towards a straighter crowd. I've said that before.
I totally know what he means. It wasn't at the circuit crowd with the shirts off. The men, it's more mixed crowd with women and, Bridget Connellish.
Ravish, they were going this. So I remember playing often with Doc Martin, and he's great. And Mike Bindra, who went on to start Made Productions and Electric Zoo, he used to be a bartender at Sound Factory Bar. And then he, came on board Twilo after was being a bartender there. And I started suggesting people to him to, bring into the States. And I remember having Daft Punk play before me, Basement Jaxx, DJ Pierre, DJ Vibe, a lot of people. I still got the flyers. I saved a lot of those. And really, that's just when it became, okay, use the word global. Global Underground asked me to make a CD. I started, getting concept ideas for elements, and which all doesn't come out until 2 years after I started working at the Tunnel. So it was those years, 95, 6, 7, 8, 9, traveling the world, getting to know a lot of great people, working on stages with a lot of heavy hitters. And I guess it just molded me into the DJ I am now, where if I get to take you on a proper journey, it's going to be.
And don't forget, you went to create Be Yourself down at Yuba Street in Hudson.
Right. I almost forgot that. That was like my favorite.
That's a big big piece of the pie too. That's like,
It is. It is. That's probably a legacy for me because it was every Friday for 5 years and 4 months. Every Friday, midnight till noon. Piece of cake. That was a lot. And then I played the closing of the building because, of course, now it's condominiums. And, I need some more water.
Drink. Isn't it incredible, everybody? I'm going to talk right now. I'm going to let everybody
pee. I love you, Lenny. Looks like DJ Pierre, right? You sure?
Sorry, everyone. I had no sound. I mute myself so you don't get an echo from Danny coming through. Thank you, everyone. My mic was off. I was saying 50, well, almost 45 to 50 years of history here. Of history. I'm so glad he agreed to do this. I mean, we've look, we need 20 hours to really touch everything. It's impossible, but he has touched on so many things, and thank God we're able to bring him down each piece of it, because every part that he's touched is very important to the full picture of this dance music thing called house music. Danny's a huge fixture in it. Even though he's known for playing techno, I wanted him to tell all of you in the beginning, it all starts from the same spot, R&B disco, or what should we call pre-disco, Philly international sound. Takes you from there, through it all. He even, he went into kind of like new wave, in a sense, and on, playing Saint music at Sticks in Manhattan, getting a chance to go to Miami. His Winter Music Conference sets become legendary. I'll tell you, he didn't even mention this. There's been times when you went to those sets that he played in Miami, he talked in between. He would be talking in between, explaining about the songs with a microphone. So, this has been a very interesting interview. And, it's incredible what he didn't even mention that he had the microphone in his hand in those sets sometimes, telling everybody, hey, here's the deal. This is what I did. I played this here. I heard him do that. Right? I'm talking about you when you held your microphone, those 12, 13-hour sets. You start talking to explain to people what the record meant to you.
Well, mainly, I guess, first of all, we're both Italian from New York. We're not shy, When I worked at the roller disco, I had to be on the mic. I was introducing, what was upcoming, what was backwards skaters, couples only, speed skaters, what you have to do. And this started during the Winter Music Conference because I was getting such acclaim for what I was doing there, which even though Cheers, basically Lenny, I was like a host, so if Mantronics or Niobe or Teledane's going to perform, somebody's got to announce them, so it always stemmed from me, not just being a DJ without a microphone. I was hosting, and I also remember at the Winter Music Conferences, especially when it got to the Groove Jet years, the way people would look at me, they were like, what is this? You know, and you just feel it because you get, it's one, you know, it could be goosebump songs and you know they want to know. So I would just say, hey, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to John Chiafone, TikTok, or you're listening to Deep Dish and Juicy Zaballos, Masters at Work, whoever it might have been. I like to let them have the credit, you know? I didn't write them. I'm only playing this.
But nobody did that on that level, you know, like really, you know, was telling a story through a night and, you know, and told some credits and gave people their due rights, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like that at Twilo or Vinyl. Yeah, you say, you know, get up Doc Martin or, you know, next week, you know, especially when you're playing such long sets. I mean, you got to realize how much time a person like me spends alone preparing to be alone in the booth for 12 hours. You know, it's like, can I talk to somebody?
Right.
You don't want to talk when you're working. You like to conversation, socializing. It's not a social career.
How many hours does it take you to prepare for something like that? What's days or what's involved for you to do this?
Lenny, I can't even explain to you how possessed I become. I mean, back when I was still with the records, I would go through every record in my collection just because if we were downstairs, I'd pan with the camera to show you what I'm talking about. I would travel with portable turntables, listen to the records in my hotel rooms, do a lot of editing of songs to make them more appealing, extend them. It was either studio sessions, record shops, a lot of listening sessions. You got to listen, you got to learn the songs and make a proper reason why you're going to play it. You know, you got to feel it first before you put it out the speakers. So it's a lot of studying. It's a lot of studying of, you know, the music, not only going to the shops and buying them, you got to know what you're playing. And so there's a lot of time put in. And then it became extra time because, you know, I had a studio and I started realizing how it can make that much more of an impact on a song if I did an edit of it, because it wouldn't hold itself on its own. So it was really all about extending the best parts of it or eliminating bridges, you know, when it gets that corny section.
So we say the shit part of the song, get it out of the way so we get that good sections of the record.
Yeah. So, yeah. And, it's a lot of time put into preparing.
We know that because I'm telling you, Danny, these people spoke about your sets in biblical terms, brother. They spoke about it in biblical terms. I'm serious. The highlight is Danny's 14-hour set. And I get it. That's why I was able to advertise it like that.
I think when you mentioned about when I went from like being a deep house guy with the soul boy and all that to an edge, you were scratching your heads kind of phrase. But let me think for a second.
That wasn't to put you down. We just
No.
We're going because you knew how passionate you were about house music. I remember how in the records you were making and the mixes. And it's like, what?
Yeah. I totally forgot what I was going to say about that part. Where it went from that to something else. But yeah, it's not a very social career anymore. You know, without the shops, without being a Billboard reporter, talking to the promoters, you know, meeting at the record pool. It's a lonely career. Anybody would tell you that. you can't gonna lie to you and say, you know, you were saying earlier, people think you're loaded and you live the life. No. You know, I've done good for myself. I have a beautiful home. I have a beautiful car. I have beautiful furniture. I have an amazing manager, Guy Ramos. And, but, you know, people that are in the know that guys like myself on this level get by and do well. But it's nothing like the EDM DJs, you know, like those, nothing. Like, I have to work a whole year what someone to make in one night. It's.
You mean like Calvin Harris? You talk about David Guetta and Calvin Harris and stuff? Like those guys?
All those types. Martin Garrix.
Because what happens is those records are pop records that they make.
Right. No, I get it. I totally get it. And I respect it too.
It's like they're a pop act, and almost it's like having Madonna in her prime.
Right. But because people see my name, maybe because of the internet and the way we all have social media, everybody's all in the same city. And they see your name, they see it a lot. They see you've been around for all these years. They think you're making it like these guys.
Yeah, that you're in the upper echelon. You're in the high end. You know.
You have an SSL. I don't even have a console.
There was good times in house music. I was able to really enjoy those times.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean. You know, I know what you mean. It's crazy. This is a crazy business. And then, you know, some of us know you're always one away from that big remix that all of a sudden changes everything. And like, for example, like Todd Terry with Everything But the Girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
Millions of mixes. Boom. You're the high Armand Van Helden. Remember those
budgets?
The budgets are crazy. They're throwing money at you because they want your name. And even more so that there used to be your sound. They just want your name attached.
Yeah.
For the algorithms now. This is crazy. The world we live in.
You know what's funny is that just as I started feeling like I was getting into the nature of how my mixes should really sound, because I don't love everything I've done. But in 2002, wow, has it been that long? That's when I did Depeche Mode and Kings of Tomorrow. And I'm really proud of those two. But after that, it was nothing. Yoko Ono, that's all I can remember. I did a couple of singles, just, you know, novelty stuff, Bring the Drums Back, Space Dance. But that's it. All the labels closed, all the shops closed. The budgets went from a good amount.
What budget?
Zero.
Air. Breathe that in. Take that air in and breathe.
Yeah.
Like, now what? Now what do you do? Right?
And one of the last songs I did, I didn't even get in advance.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, not even in advance. So
all right, so here's my last question, because you covered so much. 2 questions. You with the flashlight back in the day.
Yeah.
Where's that come from? And where are you going after we leave here? Like, where's your plan of action from now forward? What's in your mind? Like, what are you going to, accomplish?
Okay. Well, the thing with the flashlights, I think, I remember exactly how it started, but it probably stems from, can I just stop for a second and say, earlier we were talking about, did I finish on my realizing how I embraced that change? We were talking about, how could I listen to Relight My Fire again and some of these songs? I was such an avid lover of music, but it was getting boring for me. And then my ears just started opening with techno. It's kind of like when we were kids and we were listening to all this disco, and then Kraftwerk came out of nowhere. How could you deny I Feel Love by Donna Summer? So I embraced that change. And then still 3 decades later, still a DJ, I needed something newer. I didn't like freestyle. I didn't like high energy. I didn't like hip hop, rap music, reggae. I was attracted to the techno. And I picked this up before because I wanted to show you this. Is it in the camera? I work with two of these. And I can put up to 64 loops in each one. And they make all the difference because if I need a rhythm, I have tons saved. I need an acapella, I have them set for the remix deck. Even if it's something simple, but you want to make that statement. So you're playing something that's techno, it's got their rhythm, but it ain't really going to go to a higher height. Yeah, I could do a snare roll with that too. I know the other day I was playing something and I dropped the acapella. It's so deep and rich of Express 2. It's going A, C, D, C. And it's so powerful that knowing exactly the right level, how to pull back on the track you're playing, it made it like as if that was the track. Oh, it's a remix of AC/DC? So things like that help you elevate the track you're playing. So if it's techno, I'm very likely to be playing it a lot slower than its original tempo. And so I really do enjoy it. I love it. I love playing with guys like Chris Liebing. And yeah, I just wasn't sure if I left off on.
No, you covered it now.
Passion is still there.
Yeah, no, I get it. You covered that for sure, 100%.
Yeah, the flame is still inside me to do it, and I prepare sometimes now more than ever because I'm going through all the loops and all, putting the music into iTunes. Then I make the playlist, and I make the playlist in Tractor. Then you make your loops and everything. It's just a lot of homework. Are we up to the part where is this going for me? I don't remember what your question.
The flashlights, the lights, of course, because some people asking me a couple of questions. I want to make sure you covered a lot of people's questions as you were explaining stuff. That's why I didn't stop you. People be writing on the chat.
I totally forgot.
No, and I won't stop you because unless it's something that's completely separate, you're answering. They're going, what happened to your production with this? And you answered it. So I wasn't going to stop you. I'm listening. I'm moderating. I'm going
live, yo.
this he's rocking it, people.
My God.
You're doing a great job, Dan. I mean, we're jogging your memory heavy today to get all this stuff out of you.
Okay.
The lights, the flat. Somebody asked me, what about Danny? Right. What about Danny and his famous flashlights?
All right. I guess every DJ inside of them is part light man too, because you know the song so well. You know when that strobe should hit or that floodlight should sweep or go up in the air. And I guess I've done lights in my days. I've done lights for DJs because, it might have been your night off, but you're there and the light man like, let me do the lights. And you're having fun doing the lights. Well, that for me comes from also being a frustrated musician. So I know changes, I know parts, I know when things are about to happen. And that's what I think started to happen. I don't know how I stumbled upon the flashlights, but I know that I was able to accent and highlight some of the songs almost in like a crescendo kind of way. So instead of, hitting on the remix deck a snare roll, I might just come up with flashlights, and it was making sense if the rooms were dark. A lot of places it didn't have the right effect. But at Twilo, Tonal, Groove Jet, Stereo Montreal, my favorite club in the world to play at, some places it just had the right effect. And those things were heavy because that was before LED. Those batteries were like, I think I have a tendonitis in both
carpal tunnel, tendonitis,
plantar fasciitis. So yeah, I had fun with that, but
see, that effect was huge for people. They talk about that too. Like, oh my God, Danny has flashlights. Wait, shine the light on me.
I played a club, 23 Meadow in Brooklyn the other night with Beirut, and it reminded me of vinyl. And I think it's the kind of room where the flashlights would have made sense because, they go around like helicopter lights or searchlights, and you're making an effect because you know what that song is going to do. And, it's not meant to like point at people's faces and blind them and kick them out of the club. Okay, I'll bring him back.
Bring him back, Danny. Last, from here forward, what is your projection? What do you think is where are you headed?
From here to eternity. That's the Giorgio song behind me.
From here to eternity. Oh, that's what you want to be. Oh.
Can you believe I got to meet Giorgio Moroder a few times now? Like I met him at on the panels discussion, like afterwards you wait to say hello and meet somebody. I think it was the Billboard Music Summit. I couldn't wait to meet him. I was probably trembling. And then I got to do the rework of From Here to Eternity.
I remember that too, that remix when you did that.
Yeah. Kick needs to be harder. Then I got to meet him when he played at Output as a DJ. And you know what he said to me? I can't believe that Giorgio Moroder knows me. And he says to me, Danny, is it true I hear you're retiring? I said, oh my God, Giorgio Moroder's hearing this.
Is asking the question, no less. And you're like, what?
I said, no, it got all lost in translation. I never meant retiring. I meant that I wanted to resign from my company and start over, but it just got lost in translation. And he goes, oh, thank God, because we need you, And like, this is Giorgio Moroder telling me, good, because you can't retire kind of words, And this is in like the side room of Output before he went on. I'll never forget that. It's moments like that that mean more to me than a Grammy nomination because I appreciated that. And that was a great way to show my family what this career really meant to me of being a DJ for, 40 something years. Well, now it is. But yeah, it was helpful for them to see that. But I don't feel like a person in the music business. I don't own a record label. And, so I didn't write I Feel Loved. I didn't produce Depeche Mode. I did a dance remix. Came out good. And, but that moment with Giorgio Moroder, or so many moments at the end of a night at a nightclub, means so much more to me than a Grammy win, because I'm a DJ first. I'm not a music producer first. I'm not star of Hollywood type of guy.
No, that's for sure, everybody. Danny's very behind the scenes. Keeps everybody away from him when he's working. You know that. We know that about you.
Oh, can I tell you a story, Lenny, about why I hated people behind me?
Share it, Danny.
Yeah, because, I know the rumors. I know the stories, but I'm going to hear from me. I am so obsessed and possessed when I'm working, when I'm in a DJ booth. To me, it's this equivalent of a singer singing on stage and somebody going up to him doing this. And they're performing with a violin or whatever it might be. But back in the days, when you had to turn around to get your record, or you had to turn around from the mixer to go through your CD books, a lot of times there would be people there. And it would be a major distraction for me. I would have to obviously say hello, not be rude. And it could be all kinds of people, industry people, club people, promoters, other DJs, and you get stuck. Then you're like, turn around, you go back to what record was I about to play, or what you may have wanted to do. You forgot what it was, or it's too late to do it now because I passed that point of the record. And then it started to become, my name started getting more and more recognized. Then people start wanting the photos. And now you have to stop to take photos with people. And it's like, I didn't sign up for this. I just want to be there. Just put me back in a mezzanine, But yeah, I mean,
I can understand that, because it's hard to be working through a night and stop your train of thought and have to play bartender. I call it like playing bartender. Like you're actually working, but you're like, wait, hold on, I got to mix. Just wait a second, And they don't understand, or they're coming up to you at the wrong moment when you're in the middle of fucking doing. I know. I'm like, I've been booth patrol for other people. Like, stop. Let him do his thing. Wait. I
never meant to come across as like some diva attitude person. It just, what I really realized how much I appreciate Tractor now, because I don't have to turn around anymore. I can just stay focused into my screen, my remix decks. And yeah, I'll say hello to people sometimes, but sometimes I was on really, really big platforms, where there's just industry behind you. And,
Danny, you're like, get him out of here.
In different languages.
Get him out of my booth now.
Danny, grande, no.
Danny, please, Danny, I love you, Danny.
Man, Lenny, I've witnessed some stuff around the world.
So do we all. I can imagine what you witnessed. You could write a book just on the witness. Forget about everything else.
The witness program.
God bless you, Danny Tenaglia. And I'm going to make you answer the last question, and then I'm all going to say goodnight to you, because you're a DJ icon. So I'm going to say it. You're our hero, bro. Okay? You're our hero. So where does Danny leave me now and goes for the next 10, 15 years? What are you projecting is going to be your life now? When we're back out of COVID, of course, and we're fully back to full par, back to full power again.
I guess this period with COVID really helped. Helped, made a lot of us stop and think, where's this all going for me? What's next? I turned 60 in March. And I spent the day by myself. It was all streaming, Ain't that something? I moved to New Jersey. I live in a private area. I can't see another house from here. There's no street lights. There's no sidewalks. I live in a forest, basically. And all this change with COVID, 60, this area, moving into a new home, it really made me think, I said earlier, I don't even know what else to do. I don't know what else I could do as far as a career. I can't stop because I need to continue making a living. If I want to afford living here and, keep my life going as it is, I cannot stop working. So with that, I wish I was able to move the camera around so I could. It looks like I'm in Judge Judy's chambers.
No, you look fine. We need the story. I'm afraid if you move it, we're gonna lose this. Do not touch it.
We'll have to do part two.
Send them private message. Don't touch the computer till we're finished.
Anyway, so I've committed myself to sitting in a room like you're sitting right now. I want to have a proper studio, but I'm going to keep it minimal. I have all the synths, all the drum machines, but I just want to keep it minimal and really, really learn how to master Ableton by myself, not have to depend on an engineer, because scheduling and who lives in this city, that city, it's kind of impossible. And I'm hungry to do this every day, but it's hard to find the right people to work with. So I've committed. I bought a mini iMac Mini, loaded it up, and reinstalling Logic and Ableton, because most of my sessions were with Logic, but Ableton is the way to go for warping tracks if you're DJing. And it is what everybody's using to make tracks these days. A lot of people are just putting Logic and Pro Tools on the back burner. And everybody tells me you'll enjoy it. It's much easier to learn and utilize. So here I am surrounded by these trees and the nature, and that's all I see myself doing is continuing with the music, because it's my heart, it's my soul, it's my life. I don't know what else it would possibly do.
So is that going to force you to, are you going to make a Tenaglia label to release the stuff on? Because we're at that stage now where if you're going to make all this music, does somebody understand how to work with it properly? Know where to put it? Or are you going to still work the same business model that you've always done, where you hand it to a record label and then on to your next project?
Well, it's a lot of everything because of being a DJ and a producer. It really is two careers, because which one of these careers is going to need my time? Both of them. So it's two careers. Of course, you mentioned COVID. It put a stop on a lot of things, but I need to find people to work with. Also, in regard to the label, most people that have really gone on to become successful with their brandings, whether it's Guy Gerber, Marco Carolla, Jamie Jones, Damian Lazarus, these people have labels, so they have a brand. I don't have a label. People know I have a Be Yourself theme party because of the song I co-wrote. But there's no Be Yourself records, so it's not like I can go bring a party. So maybe that is on the horizon, that I start a record label and start bringing that branding so I can earn a better living. But that's down the road, because I think I have to have a catalog of tracks. And the funny thing is, we're talking about deep house and techno within my career. I have so many deep house tracks sitting in my computer and my Logic program that I've started over the years. And even recently, still, when I have sessions with some of my keyboard player friends, mainly Eddie Montilla, he's in Miami. But they're just sitting on there. But I think if I put those out, it's not going to get me the global attention as if I made techno type tracks. So it's still difficult. But I need to find people to work with to make these tracks come to life, whether they're house, deep house, or techno. But that's the only place I could see my life going from here. Hey, with a face and a voice like this, I could always drive a cab.
Listen, you can't go wrong. Your name is synonymous in the industry. If you were to do the techno route and you make that, say, Be Yourself, and you do a deep underground label as well, I could see it working, because people already know, the brand of Danny Tenaglia is well known and well liked. You know that. It's just a matter of feeding the machine. And
you need to work with new up and coming people too that can help you express yourself, because time is limited. There's only so many hours in a day. So maybe, meeting someone that could listen to my deeper stuff, maybe I'll make like a little B room downstairs or something and let them go work on it. But, I need to find people that understand music, know when you hear that synth and you hear that string or whatever other instrument might be, If you can't tell that they're fighting each other and those notes don't work together,
You can't be doing this.
yeah, you can't work in that.
And
Sometimes wrong is right. Sometimes wrong is right,
but
especially in techno.
we've all been spoiled by some of the best guys in New York and some of the great keyboard and musicians we've been around.
Well, the people we learned from, and
Yeah.
talking about the Motown Philly, these were real orchestras and jazz classical players. That's how they learned from Mozart and Bach, Miles Davis, whoever. So, yeah, I'm fussy.
I know you are. That's why you don't release a lot of stuff and you're very careful. I'm not stupid. We all know that. We all know that you take a lot of pride in what you do, and you want to get it right.
I would love to revisit my catalog and of remixes and stuff and make them more sounding punchier today, like today's, digital sounding stuff. They've come to such higher heights with the way some of these records sound today. And you listen to the 90s records and like, it was a 909, but it doesn't have that kick wasn't loud enough. So I would love to revisit those and just get them out to people, just do it.
Yeah, you could do that.
People don't know the songs I've remixed. So I don't want to just put them out there without revisiting them first and enhancing them sonically.
They won't know that's from Danny at 1993 or Danny 96 or Danny 91. They won't know that.
Right.
I know it sucks. This is the way things are today. They don't realize that was a time and era when things were all analog too. It was a different world back then. All that's different than now.
Yeah.
How we made records back then.
Are people still in the chat sending in their resumes?
Yeah, I was actually going to say, make sure you send resumes to Danny too. He's looking for great programmers. And great musicians. He's hungry.
That know how to master Ableton.
That are masterful A&R, not A&R, masterful Ableton users. Tony Rivera says, me, Carlos Fuerte, I'm on it. They're all writing to me right now.
Yeah, but they're probably like in Boston.
You gotta be in the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut.
You need to have a car. You need to have, know North New Jersey, not take 3 hours to get here. Funny. You got to come out here sometime. I have the District 36 and vinyl sound system mixed together because the District's system is 14 feet high. I couldn't fit that, but I have the 4 stacks up in my basement.
Really? I didn't know that I didn't know you grabbed that too.
Yeah, I have the prototype of a Gary Stewart system at the District 36.
I remember that system, yeah.
And Pioneer bought the rights to it.
Right.
So I have that system. I didn't get to buy the amps, but I do have all the crossovers and all the toys. I didn't get the CD players, DJ turntables, or mixers, but I got the speaker boxes, the horns. I bought new speakers to put inside the boxes, transparent from Canada, and I got all the crossovers.
Wow.
Party time. Right after this goes away.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
I will definitely come out. I would love to come see a spot.
The theme is going to be a safari because out back here, and remember, I'm a little kid from Brooklyn. I know cockroaches and mice. I lived above a pork store.
Don't forget that. He's urbanized.
533 Metropolitan Avenue.
He's urbanized. Where all those clubs are, he lived back as a kid. Now it's all clubs. It's all the clubs in New York are in that area now.
My dad, rest his soul, would have been 92, and he was born on North 7th Street in Williamsburg. My mom was born in the apartment I was raised in. And it's crazy how it's changed. But I was going to say, living here on the edge of a forest, there's probably like just 8 miles of forest right behind my house. I've seen from lizards, turtles, to groundhogs. I've seen rabbits. I've seen foxes, raccoons, black bears, and now garden snake and a rattlesnake. A rattlesnake in the rocks over there.
Oh my God.
So I'm not leaving the house.
Stay inside, Danny. Keep making music. We love you.
Lenny, thank you so much. And thank everybody for watching. You just are amazing. I could talk to you forever. You are the bomb. Let's stay in touch.
Oh, we will. Oh my God.
You got my number now.
You have mine too. And finally, I got your number. It's a good one. It's a 212 number, everybody. Make sure you hit up Danny. 212-555-1212 for information on how to become his musician programmer. But all kidding aside, if you guys are in the area and you're hot, Danny's looking for new talent that understands Ableton. Reach out to him. He wants to know. Because like all of us, we're looking for that next best thing, and you may just be that person. And I want to say, this has been a wonderful Sunday. One of the greatest masters, iconically, I know, and most humblest I know, Danny Tenaglia.
Lenny, and I want to congratulate you on this show. I didn't mention earlier that I watched your interview with Lee John, and I didn't know you knew him.
Oh, I know him so well, Sleazer Joe.
Oh my God.
Lee John's incredible. I love him.
I couldn't believe this guy. I was like, I want to know him. And then I went on to see another YouTube of him singing, like sitting in a chair. He's so on point. I was like, oh my God, he still does it. Like, it was like,
sounds like imagination, right?
I couldn't believe it. I was so grateful that I watched that particular one and then got to continue. It was like, I had no idea where Lee John's been all these years, So thank you for doing what you do, Carl Cox, all the people you interview. I still got a whole bunch I need to watch. I didn't know you.
Danny did it for posterity. It was a lot of work to get him on, but it was so worth it on a Sunday.
Let's do part 2.
God, we have to pick up from 1996 to now. We will do part 2. But we are going to go. I haven't announced yet, but we are going to Real Network soon. When I do, I may come back and say, Danny, we're really doing this for real, with the camera crew.
Come here, man. My house is
we want you with me, like Diane. I'll be Diane Sawyer. And
you want to be like
Diane Sawyer. I want to be that person, Barbara Walters. I want to be I want to be able to get extract what we need. And listen, Danny, you give everybody a ton of inspiration. Number one,
man.
Think about it. The age you're at, okay, still passionate about it. Because our generations, the family members we knew or people we knew by mid-50s, they were already talking about it was over, retirement. That's, what I'm talking about. They're saying, forget. We're still playing to 21, 22, 25-year-olds. It's incredible to even be in that whole mindset that you're still able to do that, be loved for what you do and revered.
It's a spiritual thing. It is. I love it. And again, thank you. And let's do part 2. Wait, hang
on. We couldn't even get Danny on part 1. Now he wants to do part 2. Oh my God. I'm so humbled. God bless you.
Do a show. You could be Howard Stern and I'll be the chick that just laughs at everything he says.
Yeah, because and then open up the newspaper every time and say, tell me what's going on. But Danny, again, you got so much information. God bless, brother. We love you. I'm serious. And I mean that. I'm not just saying it. It's a lot of work to get everyone together. And thank God we've been able to still be here to tell the story. And peace. Love you.
God give us
everybody. I want to say one thing before I let him go. Just look at this, everybody. You wonder where the sound we talk about New York, right? He's going to get a kick out of this. Wednesday coming up, I got Dave Darlington.
Oh, wow.
From Basehead. Dave Darlington, the sound engineer behind all those big records.
I used to rent MAW studios a lot. Bass Hit, it was called.
Yeah, and I knew he was going to say it. Dave Darlington.
That guy is so humble, cool, down to earth, gentle.
Great.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to watch it. Give him my best.
I will. And of course, Danny, be careful with the raccoons, the squirrels, the bears, the rattlesnakes, the turtles, the tigers, everything you got going out there in North Jersey. Please be careful, and because we need you at your next gig. Okay.
I'm going to hang up. Maybe I'll go see if there's a bear up there. I need to.
All right, tell everybody, Danny, good night. And then you stay with me because I want to thank you. Good night, everyone around the world. Thank you again for tuning into True House Stories. I am Lenny Fontana. Right next to me is Danny Tenaglia. We'll all say thank you. God bless. Take care.